I'm Wendy Muse, creator of the Left Pocket Project, and this is the Left Pocket Project podcast. So I just wanted to let everyone know that surprisingly, I am still alive. I know it's been a while since I've put out a podcast. The last one that I did was a Reading Revolution episode about Carlos Marighella, a communist revolutionary from here in Brazil, with my partner in crime for the Reading Revolution series, of course, Richard. But I haven't put out a podcast lately with an interview with an academic or someone as a special guest. And the reason for that is because, as I explained in several other podcasts, and obviously for those of you who follow me on social media, you've seen this, or if you know me in person, you know this, but I'm currently abroad. I'm in Brazil conducting research for my dissertation. And see, the problem with that, as much as I love doing my research, it means that the podcast will unfortunately suffer from a little bit of my absence, which is kind of important since I'm the host of the show, right? So keeping that in mind, my schedule is a bit bonkers. And when I say that, it's not like my schedule in the US where I have to wake up really early and commute from Baltimore to New York, or I have to travel. No. It's a different kind of hectic in the sense that I don't wake up super early, but I do stay out rather late. I'm reading all day long, and it's not necessarily the best headspace to be in when I come home to record a podcast. Not to mention the fact that I'm an hour ahead of the US, or at least on the East Coast, more than that on other coasts and certainly the Midwest. And the other thing too is just the simple fact that like, y'all, I'm tired. I'm so tired. Like people who work full time and then do podcasts, props to you. But I think that one of the things that also complicates this is the fact that for those of you who don't know, people who are academics who study countries beyond the United States in particular, during the summer, we're working. Like in general, academics obviously work in the summer and they're doing research and things like that. But for those of us who are working on countries that have nothing to do with the United States, or at least our work concentrates in other countries, it means traveling. It means being on different time zones. It means spending time away from the home for different reasons, not having as much control over our schedules sometimes. And, just like the everyday stresses of being tired from learning a different environment, working throughout the day, sometimes in a different language, things like that. So there's always there's a different layer on top of the levels of tired that you feel when you're in your home country versus when you're working abroad or you're doing research abroad. So I just thought I'd add that. That kind of adds to it. But the reason I mention academics is because sometimes they're a little hard to schedule. And I don't mean that as a diss, right? As someone who's doing research myself, I fully understand. For example, if someone asks me, oh, when can you do an interview on this topic or that topic? I would be like, the weekend, because that's the only time I'm like fully free and have the mental space to really concentrate and talk about stuff. Because during the week, I'm at the archive all day, or I'm at the library, or I'm doing stuff, I'm going through documents and things like that. And because I'm here for a limited time, I have to really take advantage of my weekdays. Whereas when I'm in the United States, it's sort of a different schedule and I'm more in control of, like what I do with myself. I don't have to work as much around other people's schedules unless I'm teaching classes and things like that. But even then, if I were commuting back and forth between Baltimore and New York to teach classes, which I've done for previous semesters, I certainly would not have time to give an interview on the days that I'm teaching, right? So basically what I'm trying to say in a very long-winded way is that my schedule is different here. My time frame is different. My free time is different. And so there's that. And there's also dealing with other people's schedules being different, their free time being different, their work time being different, and kind of it being hard to get a hold of people at this time to do interviews based on my schedule, which is not the best, and their schedule, which may not be the best. So just putting that out there. I haven't died. At least, God, I shouldn't say that. That sounds bad. I'm still alive is the better way to say I haven't died, right? I haven't died. I'm still alive. And there will be more podcast episodes coming soon for sure. But I did want to announce a few things that I have on the horizon that are sort of cooking up. The first one is already something that I've put into place. So for those of you who may have not seen this, one of the policies that I've instituted for the Left Pocket Project podcast is that I really wanted to start putting my money where my mouth is and putting your money where my mouth is. That sounds gross, but you know what I mean. So I thought it would be a great idea to, first of all, start paying Richard, which I mentioned in the past in several previous episodes of Reading Revolution. We kind of dropped that bomb, let everyone know that, yeah, by the way, I'm using Patreon funds to help Richard in terms of his time that he puts into working for the Reading Revolution series. So he gets a cut of that podcast money because he is someone doing a job working on the Reading Revolution series of the podcast. He reads the same things that I read. He comes prepared to discuss. We've discussed sometimes for 2-3 hours. And then he also helps promote the podcast. So he gets paid for that because it is part of his job. It's work at the end of the day. And then there's also the fact of the matter that people who come on as guests are working while they're guests. I mean, let's just be real. This is work that people have done in terms of research for years and years and years, sometimes decades. And so when I have them on my show to talk about their work, they deserve to be paid. It's time, right? It's time that they're putting in to contribute to the podcast and to contribute to the audience's learning. Basically, what a lot of the guests are doing when they come on is teaching a class. Is teaching a 1 hour to 2 hour class. And so they have to get paid for that. Now, given the income of the Left Pocket Project podcast is not that of a top tier university or a private university in the US by any means. I get somewhere around between 200 and 220 a month. And I lost some patrons because I've been MIA, which I completely understand. And also because people have hit hard times sometimes and you can't give 5, you can only give 1, or you can't give 1, you can't give anything, you can just share. So I get it. I'm not complaining. But I'm just saying that it is a very low budget that we're working with. And so what I do is I take from that budget and I pay the guests a small fee as a thank you. And I also ask them if there's a charity or any sort of organization that they'd like to contribute to as part of their remuneration for their participation in the show. So I have a rundown of the organizations that the guests have decided to donate their funds to. If you follow me on Twitter, you can see that list. I'm also going to post that list on the Patreon page so you can see the list in full as well as additional links if you want to follow those groups online or contribute yourself, or at least just have an idea of what they're doing and where your money's going. The other thing that I wanted to announce as well is I really need an intern. I need an intern so bad. I need an intern like 3 yesterdays ago. But there's a lot of work that needs to be done on the sort of administrative end for the podcast. So I'm still editing everything myself. I'm still, picking the interviewees and stuff like that. I'm still sending out the emails. I'm still heading up everything in terms of the day-to-day operations of the show. But I do need someone to help with things like transcription. That's the main thing if you become an intern for the Left Pocket Project that you'll be doing. I really just need someone to do the transcripts because I'm already transcribing myself here. Things that I find in documents, I have to transcribe, I have to translate, etc. So it's already a lot of administrative work. I have to file everything, I'm tired of looking at my computer at the end of the day. And so it would be really helpful if someone could come on as an intern to do transcripts, or even if you're not an official intern, if I could just have someone who'd be willing to do the transcripts. And yes, you will get paid. I haven't decided yet how much I'll pay the person who can do the transcripts, but obviously it's something that I'll announce with a few more details later on. But just putting it out there, if you're interested, please let me know. Shoot me a message online. You can go on Twitter at LeftPOC, on Twitter at LeftPOC, on Facebook at LeftPOC, and you can also find me and send me an email if you want, if you're interested in this. The email is leftpocketproject@gmail.com. Again, that's leftpocketproject@gmail.com. So please let me know. I take all ages. Obviously, I don't discriminate in terms of race, gender, class, none of that. Like, seriously, it kind of goes without saying, but you never know these days. So just putting it out there. I obviously don't care about your personal identity, your class level, none of that. If you can type, if you can listen to the podcast and type what we're saying and do a good job and get it, 95% accurate, if not 100% accurate, preferably, you're hired. So please send me a message. Let me know if you're interested. And that's something that I will, again, put out more information on. But you obviously, if you're already interested while you're listening to this and you haven't seen any other information about it online, please feel free to go ahead and get in contact with me and we'll work something out. In the meantime, please be patient. y'all have already been so patient, and I cannot thank the people who are still on board, who follow the page, who've retweeted Left Pocket Project stuff, who've given us shout outs, for the work that I do, for the work that Richard's done, for anyone who has shown support to this podcast. I am forever grateful, and thank you so much for that. And obviously for those of you who've contributed financially as well, your contribution literally helps the podcast run. And obviously, as you can see, considering I'm now paying Richard, I'm paying guests, and I'll be paying an intern, I mean that really literally. So all of these forms of help really count. And so thank you again so much. And hopefully, if I've got my fingers crossed right now as I say this, but hopefully I will be able to put out a new podcast with new guests coming up very, very soon. And worst case scenario, although this is a pretty good scenario because I love the Reading Revolution, Richard and I will be doing a Reading Revolution at some point, either in late July or earlier half of August, depending on my schedule, because I'm going to be kind of shuffling around Brazil. I'm going from Sao Paulo to Rio this weekend for a conference and for research. I might be going down southern part of Brazil, and then I'm going to Portugal. So it's going to be kind of a hot mess on my end. It might not be as hard to book Richard or other guests as for me this week. But yeah, just letting you guys know I'm still alive. I still care about you. I still care very much about this project. And you will be hearing from me and new guests very, very soon. So thank you so much again. Enjoy the rest of your week. And yeah, don't forget, please follow and support and tell your friends about the Left Pocket Project, where you learn about the history of leftists of color, one swipe at a time. Thanks, y'all. Have a good one.